Hi everyone and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Gigabyte HD 7870 that I picked up locally for $60. Now $60 is a great deal, having in mind that the market at the moment it's a huge mess. Now this model or these series of cards were released back in 2012 by AMD. They're still great cards. This one in particular will perform close to an RX 560, perhaps 1050 Ti, depends on the games. And it will depend a lot actually because of the VRAM. Now, this card in particular only has 2 GB of VRAM buffer compared to the 4 GB that both the RX 560 and the 1050 Ti will have. Now, it is a little bit more power hungry, but if you have any okay 400 or 500 watt power supply, you won't have any issues running it. And something that I did not mention is what is the test bench. Now, today I will be running it out of my personal i3 10100F with 16 GB 2x8 configuration, 2400 MHz. Now, I do not have higher clocked RAM, and in my H410 motherboard it doesn't go higher either, so it doesn't really make much sense for me to buy 3000 or 3200. CSGO actually tends to run quite well on most hardware, modern or even older. In this case in particular, I'm going to be running the game at 1080p medium settings, as that's how I normally play, and I will be reaching around 140 FPS most of the time. Now, have in mind that the FPS are lower because I am recording with OBS. Now, I could use an external laptop with an external capture card to record it, but I don't think it makes any fair to the graphics card. Normally when you play, you will have something else open on the background, and as I'm recording this, I have at least Google Chrome open, I have the game, and I have OBS recording it. So I think it's fair to say that the card still holds pretty well, and not only CSGO but other games like League of Legends, Dota, Rocket League, all of these other games will run just fine. Now, particularly I like to play RTS games, so I've tested Age of Empires and it runs perfectly fine. Definitive Edition. Now, I also want to add, as you will see, like I said, the FPS will be around 140, so you could probably have a high refresh rate monitor with this graphics card and it still will be fine. Having said that, as you can imagine, not a lot of games are going to be running at 144 FPS. It will struggle with newer games, but for example, stuff like GTA 5, Battlefield 1, those will run just fine. And as you will see very shortly, Battlefield 1 runs at around 60 FPS most of the time. Now, I played around with the settings, and going from high to medium to low doesn't change it that much. The graphics quality does seem to be quite different if you go to from low to high, as it makes sense, but the FPS isn't really affected. So with this card I probably would recommend going with medium high settings, and if you're not recording like me, I'm sure you'll get a quite higher frame rate. I do have to point out that I have tested without recording, and the FPS would be about 5-6 more FPS in the case of Battlefield 1, and in the case of CSGO I was hovering around 160 in Dust 2 Deathmatch. Next game up is going to be Battlefield 1. Now, I'm not really going to do with many more games because just these two games you can really get an idea of the FPSs that you would get. Battlefield 1, GTA 5 and Fortnite have, let's say, similar requirements, although I think Fortnite, if you turn on performance mode, it will run very, very well. In this case, Battlefield 1, like I said, it will run between 55 to 65 FPS depending on what you're doing. Even with smoke and grenades, it will not go under 50. Which in my opinion for $60, I repeat $60, it's amazing. Now do have in mind that the card is from 2012 and I never know when it will fail. I have been running an HD 7970 as my personal graphics card for a very long time. So I know that they normally tend to last a long time, and like I said, they run pretty well. The only downside that I see to them compared to other more modern graphics cards are just the power consumption. If you're thinking about picking one of these up, always check your local market and check what model is first. Now, there are a lot of HD 7870 models. There is a Sapphire HD 7870, which is a 2 GB card as well, and it's a two fan cooler design. I know that one, for example, runs a little hotter because I've also had it. There's also HD 7870 by XFX, which is the Ghost Edition. That one actually runs quite hot, and I believe that Random Gaming in HD did a video on it recently. Sorry, not recently, quite a long time ago actually. And the thermals were not great, but the performance was there. So the bottom line with these cards is they perform amazing, but they have some drawbacks. Now, if you have, even if it's an older computer, let's say you have a 2nd or 4th Gen i5 or even a 6 or 8 core FX processor, you can pair them with this card and you have a great gaming computer. I'm sure you'll have a great gaming experience. Like I said, the only thing that you must make sure is that you have an okay power supply. Now, back in the day, 500 power supplies used to be quite sketchy. They only used to have one 6-pin, and nowadays you can find them with 2 8-pins very easily. This is because the standards have come up, and like I said, if you pick up a good 400 or a good 500 power supply, you will have no stability issues. So that's all for this video. Thank you everyone for watching. If you like the content, please leave a like, subscribe, and if you have any comment, please leave them down below.